2023 Ironman 70.3 Florida coming up this weekend. Let's get stuck in. This is the athlete guide here. Make sure you do get a chance to read this. I'm going over some basic info, but make sure you do get a chance to read it yourself and highlight some of the more nitty-gritty parts of this. As always, if you like what you see, please like, subscribe, and share. And if you are in need of some coaching, please reach out to me. I'm happy to assist you leading up to this or any other race. So with that, let's dig in here a little bit further. So on page 4 of our guide, we start to talk about the event schedule. Friday, athlete check-in happens from 1 to 6. The Ironman Village is open at the same time, and our athlete briefings are at 3 and 5. Saturday, day before, moving day. We have a couple of Iron Kids events. Athlete check-in for all AWA priority check-in ends at noon, but for everybody else, it is from 9 to 4 p.m. Mandatory bike and gear and timing chip. Pickup is from 9 to 5 with the swim clinic and with Ironman U certified coaches from 11 to 1. Practice swim, same time. Athlete briefings are at noon and at 4 p.m. as well. Just make sure you have everything set to go before everything closes at 5 on that day. And athlete check-in ends at 4. Sunday, race day. Transition opens at 5, closes at 6:30. Information tent is open from 5 pretty much through the entire day. Age group rolling swim starts at 7 a.m. And the official Ironman store is open 9 to 4 with the athlete food tent. Thereafter, 11 to 4 with bike checkout happening 1:10 to 5 p.m. Award ceremony happening at 4 p.m., and we'll talk about that in a second. Athlete check-in on page 5 talks about when, where, and what to bring. Photo ID, passport, QR code that you registered with. Athlete check-in steps, you're going to bring your QR code, photo ID, sign the waivers, pick up your race packet, and your giveaways. Bike stickers are going to be in the bag. Make sure you place them on your frame, your helmet, and your bike stem. There are going to be 5 extra gear bag stickers to place on your gear bags. And if you have any questions about that, please ask them when you do check in. Race packet is going to include your race bib, bike helmet stickers, swim cap, bike checkout ticket, and your athlete wristband, which you will have to wear for the entirety of the event until you are out of there. Pre-race info, things like physical addresses, personal safety, on page 7. You are allowed to swim in the race or in the lake. Pre-event, that they don't say anything that you cannot, but again, make sure when you check in, you just double check that this is the case. They highly recommend, as myself, you highly recommend that you swim with a person other than yourself, just for water safety. Mandatory bike and gear check-in. Remember, that is from 9 to 5, Saturday, December 9th. And you will also pick up your timing chip at that time there. So do not leave that area without picking up your timing chip. Also, the athlete briefings are there. Next, race day info on page 10. Race morning procedure happens with the transition opening at 5. You do not need a body mark this year. And athletes... Athlete check-in is not offered on race day morning. That means you have to do it the day before and drop off your bike. Race day parking, they do say it gets a little congested around the area, so I would arrive a little bit earlier. Timing chip, you will not pick that up on race morning. You're going to pick that up the day before. Now, here comes our first thing that I am curious about here, and hopefully it is a little bit different when you get to the race venue. Aid stations are claimed to be every 5 to 10 miles on the bike, and if we go to our bike course here, this is our bike course here. You can see the first aid station is listed coming after mile 15 here. So hopefully there's another aid station in here, but again, double check that when you get to the race venue. Also, second issue I see doesn't line up here. Mile 25 is where another aid station is, and the next one happens around mile 43, 44. So there might be another aid station somewhere in here. Again, make sure you ask those 2 questions when you get to the race venue. Back to our athlete guide, page 12 talks about relay info, time cutoffs, that kind of stuff, and the wetsuit optional races. That happens when the water measures above 76.1 but less or equal to 83.8 degrees Fahrenheit. That is a wetsuit optional race. If you do elect to do this, you won't be eligible for awards. You have to start after all of the non-wetsuit swimmers have started, and the bike cutoffs and run cutoffs do not get adjusted for you. In other words, the times will not be adjusted based on the later start time. So if there's a time, or let's say there's a time cutoff of 11:30, you have to be at that spot before 11:30, no matter what, no matter where you started on the swim entry. More relay info is located on page 14 here, and there's awards over here as well. Post-race info, things like bike checkout, race photography, that kind of stuff is going to be located over here. And then the awards ceremony starts at 4 p.m. with athlete roll down happening at 4:15 right thereafter. That is on page 17 with our slot allocation / roll down ceremony. You have to be there in person. Excuse me. So I would plan to get there ahead of time. If you're close, make sure you are checking the athlete tracker checker to make sure you are there. If you're close, it's just smart to attend it, and they will usually list how many slots are available on race day. So with that, let's get stuck into some more specific race details. First things first, we have a longer transition run than you would like. It's going to be a little bit much, so make sure you plan ahead. Make sure you walk it before you race it. When you do your athlete check-in, this is going to be one of your steps. Make sure you are tracking this transition walkway here. Walk it, see if you see any hazards, see where you see where the best placement's going to be, the best jogging lines are going to be to help maximize your time from finish to start of the bike. Because this is going to be a little bit longer transition than you want it to be, you are going to struggle with some time issues if you let it balloon up. If you're just kind of sauntering through everything, that time will naturally go up higher and higher and higher. So be aware of what you're doing in there. Move with a purpose in the transition. Let's talk about the swim start, which is happening right through here. Now, this is a bit of a technical swim here. We have our first straightaway happening right through here. All along this purple line, you're going to start off with even though it is a staggered start, you're going to start off with a little bit of riffraff for the first half of this section here. For the first half here, there's just going to be people everywhere. You're not going to really be able to get away from them, and that doesn't really start to happen until the bottom half of this first straightaway. This first turn expected to be very, very busy no matter where you are, front, middle, or back. So it's going to be some bunching up there. But if you can maintain your pace and, just it's a right-hand turn. So as you approach here, just turn and keep swimming. You're going to be passing a lot of people. Depending on what's happening in the fray over here, you might want to do a sharp turn with it, or you might want to go 1 or 2 body lengths out to the outside for a little bit cleaner water. That's going to be something that you're going to have to identify in the moment out there. If it's really, really compact and there's a huge battle going on the inside there, you'll be amazed at how open and available that water is if you just go 2 or 3 feet out to the side there. Same thing here. This is our right-hand turn right through here. If you, again, correctly perform a right-hand turn and maintain your swimming pace, you're going to be much, much better off. I don't really care how close you get with the turn here. You could be a little bit wonky, you could be a little off to the side, or you could be a little better. Those first 2 or 3 turns, just get through it, and then if you're all the way out here, you can just sight back here. I would much rather that be the case than you actively take in 3 or 4 sighting strokes, stopping, making sure you're on a perfect line here. It's not super, super critical for those first couple of strokes, but it gets more critical the closer you get to a turn on this course. And that's going to be the main theme here. This first section right here, up to the halfway point, you are going to have a little bit more open water, a little bit cleaner water. There's still going to be people around. You're not really going to swim away from anyone unless you're in the front of that pack on race day. And again, we have 2 left-hand turns right here. Now, what I usually do is tell you what I did, or what I usually tell you is what I did on the last turn here, which is just to turn, swim a couple strokes, and, just don't really worry about it. Because this is a little bit tighter of a turn, it's kind of the opposite here. So we have a turn, an immediate another turn right there. Because of this, you need to have your sight lines matched up perfectly. Okay, and again, don't overthink it. It's just a left-hand turn. Get around the first buoy. Chances are you will be able to see this buoy when you are swimming up to it. So in this section right through here, I want you to actively sight this buoy along with this buoy so you know where it is in space. And if you do that, once you pass this buoy right through here, then this one's going to be a lot easier to get to because you know where it is. And these turns are going to come very, very quickly. And these are 2 big opportunities to pass a lot of people on race day. This section right here, arguably going to be one of the cleaner sections out on race day for you. This is also going to be one of the sections where a lot of athletes just want to really, really push the pace there. So catch the ankles here. Make sure you are actively getting that draft here. If you're alone, just swim your pace, right? But this is a great opportunity for other people to help drive your race and get some free speed out there. Um, Again, if they are really, really fast, obviously you're not going to be able to hang with them. But if they're just slightly faster, this is a unique area out on the swim, which you can usually catch a lot of people or just pull away with other people with someone else's help, which is really cool. Uh, Second to last turn out on course here is going to be one of the more open ones for sure. And again, it is a right-hand turn. Don't overthink it. You're going to have to kind of be aware of where this buoy is, but you won't have to totally, absolutely know where it is when you are making this turn right through here. As you get through this turn, this is our last turn out on course. Again, for those first couple of strokes, I'm not super worried about what is happening with the sighting right here, or even right here. All right. Because if you make it all the way out here, chances are you're not going to be swimming a whole lot extra, whereas if you did it perfectly right there. For those first 10 strokes, not super, super critical here, but as you get more or deeper and deeper into this, further and further closer to the finish, it's going to be more and more important to have the proper sight lines there. If you see someone else swimming super straight, just sight off of them, and you'll be hunky-dory for the most part, usually. And that is our swim wrapped up in a nutshell. Last big thing here, make sure that as you get to this second to last buoy, you start to increase your kick rate, maintain your arm speed, and as you get even closer, maintain your sight patterns as you've been doing throughout the event. Very, very common for athletes to sight every other stroke as they get closer to that finish or swim exit. Do not do that. Maintain before we get up to our transition area. So that was the swim, and as we scroll down here, page 20 talks about some swim rules, talks about the wetsuit rule as we laid it out beforehand, and then we are moving on to our bike. So this is our bike course. It is a one-loop bike course, same as the swim. Swim is a one-loop. The bike is a one-loop, which is very, very unique. Make sure you talk about those aid stations and identify if they are in there or evaluate if it is a misprint on the athlete guide there and also here. Diving in a little bit deeper here, this is our bike course here. You can see the elevation profile a little bit more in detail, and we are going to talk about that after we dive into the best bike split and the weather in a second. So, weather, first things first. As it stands right now, and we are recording this on Monday night, on Saturday, we are going to experience some rains, and that's going to get worse and worse as the night progresses here. Sunday, they are forecasting some thunder showers in the morning over there. Again, don't panic. We are still on Monday. This could change. We're enough days away that this could absolutely change. So just keep it in the back of your mind. Plan to get wet. You're already going to be wet anyways, but plan to get have a little bit of bad weather on this day. So this is going to slow us down a little bit more. So as we go back to the best bike split tracker, just keep this in mind. This is an example athlete for everyone here. And as we take away speed, you're going to see a very, very common thread around here. So to start out, this athlete's going to be rocking and rolling at 126 watts. And if we scroll over here on some of the more steady areas, you're going to see a lot of similarities here. A lot of time spent at a very, very similar power profile here. And that is because we only have about 1,500 feet of elevation gain throughout this bike. It comes in a couple of different ways here. And you can obviously see the big ones that happen late, mile 27 to, let's call it mile 40. Those are the big ones out on course. So, time analysis wise, if we were to increase this by 5%, go back a little bit. 5% increase in power is going to have you a net gain of about, 4 minutes out on course, maybe slightly under for this athlete. And it comes in a couple different ways. The first is those first 25 miles. This section here, we have a 10-second gain over the course of 8.5 minutes. Again, if you've been tracking this channel, I'm not a super big fan of super long segments like that. I'm more interested in the 5.7 gain. I'm more interested in the 6-second gain, and then this 6 backed up by an 8.5-second gain. That's what I'm more interested out on course. So again, watch out for a lot of these little sneaky areas. A lot of athletes come off the gas, and if you do that in this middle section here, that is going to come at a cost big time. You're going to allow some people to just kind of inch up at you over the miles there. Now, as we go back here, let's go and shift to weather. This is the forecasted weather the other day that we did, but that is actually the opposite. So weather here, let me draw an arrow for you, is going to be coming from the southwest. So that means this direction here. So that means a couple different things. Let's switch back over to our bike course over here. And let's highlight the first couple of weather issues here. So we are going to have a faster section right through here, right? But as we slowly start to go around the clock over here, we're going to start battling. This section here, you're going to have some crosswinds for sure, all right? We are going to hook back around this section over here, almost directly into a headwind, so that's going to be one of our more challenging sections out on course. And then this section from here and also here, you are going to be battling a lot of head or head crosswinds before we make the turn. And this section up here, you're going to experience a tailwind along with this section right over here. As we start to turn back down, that's going to be a super key area if the wind is holding true at this point in time. That's going to be our tester spot over there. And as we roll around the clock up through these two sections, again, you should be pretty hunky-dory for the most part over here, aside for that section over there. And then all the way back in, this is our net direction there. So you're going to have a crosswind over there. So this is, it's going to be a very, very technical bike out there, especially from a wind standpoint. I didn't catch the wind speed, but if we go back over here, our wind speed is going to be at 13 miles an hour. So again, a pretty heavy day for wind, and I'm going to assume that it's going to be gusting as well. And that is our bike course. So let's dive into a couple of key sections here. So let's start off with this first section down here. This is going to be our ramp up into the race area. This is routinely a place where athletes get really egotistical out there and they totally fly up there. You want to be very, very careful and make sure that you do not do that. Second key section, believe it or not, is this whole one. This is our long section right through there. And we're going to put a number 2 right here for you just so you know this is our second key section. So as you get through to about mile 3 on this course, let's get rid of this. So you can see as you get to about mile 3, you're going to be right up in here for those people that are following. Right at this point in time, you should have your legs underneath you. You had a bit of a downhill, a little bit of a chance to recover. If you've had a high heart rate coming out of the swim, this is going to be your chance to kind of get it back down in this technical section right in through town. As we slowly start to progress through the miles up here, we have, zoom in for you, this is going to be not a speed killer right through here, but this is a little chicane section that you do have to be mindful of. You don't want to go into this full arrow at about 30 miles an hour. So if that is you, just back off the pace a little bit through those sections. And again, if you drive the course, you'll be able to see that. No problem. But just something to be aware of on race day. As we slowly start to make our way around the clock back here, remember, we are going to be facing a headwind, so you're going to have to be ready to rock and roll pretty much from mile 7 on from a headwind section here, all the way down to the bottom over here. So as we start to approach the third section out on course, once we pass this lake down here, we are going to experience one of our first major hills. And again, it's not super aggressive, but the problem is these hills just keep coming and coming and coming and coming. If you keep attacking these hills, they are going to have a little bit of bite back, especially when we get past this section here. This is going to be our first real uptick of elevation, and it's going to be a wake up for your legs. This hill right here, make sure you use this as an evaluator for what's going to come in the next couple of miles. If your legs are feeling very hollow, or you're having a little cramp, or here or there you feel one coming on, you need to actively check in with your nutrition and your pacing. If you have power, also your power. And go down your checklist and see what is going wrong. If everything's going right, you still need to go through your checklist at this point in time just to evaluate things that are happening on race day. And this is our third key section out on the race course. Let me highlight it for you so everyone knows what I'm talking about right through here. As we have just gone over that one hill, and again, it's not going to be a super aggressive hill, and you won't even really know that you're going over it on race day. Once you get past that, This is going to be our check-in area, our get-ready area. If I were you, I would slowly start to ramp up your power to drive up the major hill on course, where we go from about 117 all the way up to 244 feet of elevation gain. And as you saw, I'm going over this, it's about 3%. That's pretty much the max on this hill, maybe a little bit more, but nothing like 8 or a 9% gradient through here. And if we look at elevation here, you can see this goes up by 50. So we're at a pretty tight elevation banded area. Obviously, section number 4, this section right through here, this is going to be not the make or break section, but this is going to be the don't fall off section. The make or break section is going to happen right through here next. So going back to our don't fall off section here, again, pacing, power, nutrition, very, very key. As we slowly start to make our way around the clock. Once you get up and over this hill, you're going to have a great little downhill here before you make a right-hand turn, and that's going to be greeted by, hopefully, if everything holds true, a cross tailwind for you to push you up through here. So these hills should be a little bit easier than what they are forecasted to be. This whole hard section is supposed to be a tailwind, which will be a welcome sight. Now that I've said that, the wind is probably going to switch directions on us. And if that happens, this race strategy needs to change a little bit to allow for that. If we do have a tail or a headwind section in this point in time, this is going to move up to be a super, super critical area out on race day. But as it stands right now, we are going to have a tailwind here. And again, the gradients in here are not going to be 9, 10, 11%. They're going to be short, punchy climbs. This one right here lasts from 35.7 up to 36.2 miles. So not even a full mile, but it will sting a little bit because hopefully paces will be higher here. Now, as we start to make our way around the clock, again, we are going to still have a little cross tailwind if everything holds true before we get to our next critical area out on race day. And that is going to happen from this section all the way here. So just this little blip right through here, and I will highlight that for you, of course, right through here. This is going to be very, very key for us because we're going to use this as an opportunity to kind of wake our legs up. This is going to be a section where it's okay to go a little bit harder than you think you should here. Again, I put that in quotations, a little bit harder. Because as we start to turn here, we are going to have a cross tailwind again that we kind of cool off a little bit with there before we really have to kind of work after we get back up to this point in here. So working through this point right through here, and then we're going to use this section as a nice, not recovery, but as a speed bonus from the tailwind that we're getting. And of course, as the terrain starts to turn up at around 49 miles, we are going to have to work pretty much to get back in to transition. So this is going to be the last key section of our course right through here. Normally, in these longer distance events, you get told, you just kind of have to come off the gas a little bit, but unfortunately, that is not the case. You're going to have to work pretty much all the way back in here on race day, so make sure you are fueling, watch that aero positioning. If you find that you are getting caught in that aero position for longer than 15-20 minutes, you need to get out of it. You need to stretch out, even if it's just a couple of pedal strokes to set yourself up for success. So talking about the best bike split software here. That does change things a little bit, but for the most part, that power is going to stay pretty consistent like it is here. And you can see even on these uphill sections, our power right here is going to be excuse me, about 160, and this athlete is holding 120s, 130s right through there. So it's only about a 30-watt difference for this athlete on race day. Again, if your power's a little bit higher, you're going for a little bit faster speed. Those gaps might be a little bit larger, but you're not going to have a 100-watt gap out there. So if you are experiencing a 100-watt difference on the uphills versus the flats, you are going to need to check in with yourself and reevaluate what your actual pacing is out there. So going back to our athlete guide here, this is the elevation profile that they have, very similar to us. The full gas bike course located on page 26 talks about the rules out on race day. So you have 25 seconds to overtake. The draft zone is 6 meters long, or 6 bike lengths clear space between bikes. And you do have 25 seconds to vacate the drafting area when you are passed. You do have to immediately fall back, but you do have a 25-second window. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge there. There's more bike course rules listed on page 27. Please, please, please take some time to go through and read those 2 pages. They are very, very critical for your success. So now that we have done that, we are going to dig into the run a little bit here. And now the weather is supposed to get a little bit better as we progress throughout the day here. So what that means for you is you're probably going to be experiencing a couple of blisters. You know, anytime I used to race when it would rain or thunder shower or whatever, and it would stop, that's the time that I would always get blisters out there on race day. So be aware of that, be mindful, make sure if you want to do something like a tri-slide or body glide or anything like that, that would probably be advisable if the current conditions hold true. So back to our run course. This is a 2-loop run course. This is going to be our transition zone. We're going to come back in here and we are going to go around the clock in a clockwise manner. Keep in mind that there is a little section up here where we are going to have to do a little out and back before we go around for our second loop. Going and digging into our run course here. Our run course for that 13 miles has 450 feet of elevation gain on race day. Now, what does that mean for you? Well, a couple of things. The first mile is going to be a bit unique. We have some flatter terrain before we have a couple of hills mixed into things. So for the first part of our run in this section here, you really want to use this as a let's gauge how we're feeling. Let's slowly start to ramp up into things. But you can't wait too long because we do have some elevation right through there. So this first mile is going to be a little different because normally we take a mile or so to kind of ramp up into things, but unfortunately we just don't have the time this time. So get your legs ready, get ready to rock and roll, and be ready to work before the end of that first mile is over. We have some lumpy terrain for this second mile before it starts to ramp up and we hit a bit of a plateau right through here. So during this section on the way to mile 2, this is going to be another opportunity for you to get your legs back underneath you before we have another plateau. But after that, after we get past mile 2's hill, and we can find that on the map right through here. After we get past mile 2's hill on race day, you are going to need to kind of have your legs ready to rock and roll because this is going to be where the race has officially begun, if not earlier. If you're going for those podium spots, it has happened a little bit earlier than this. Third big section or fourth section that we're actually tackling on race day is here. We have a net downhill on this section here, and again, it looks like that on paper, but this section runs like a flat area here, and this lasts all the way up to mile 6, where we ramp back up a little bit, getting close to our second loop start. Don't overpace this, don't overdo this section. It's going to be very, very easy to do so, and the hardest part about this run course is going to be actually holding back a little bit. If you are able to do that, then you're going to have a lot more success, especially on I almost said mile 2, lap 2, coming out of the gates here. So again, if we picture this, the same one, this is the first mile of our run, but this is where we are experiencing again on the second loop. This runs a little bit differently. This is going to be our time to not quite attack, but kind of test the waters out a little bit. Again, you're not going to want to overdo it, just like that section on the bike, but you are going to want to see what's going on in your legs. If you do a little tester, you throw like 5 or a 10-second faster per mile bump up in there, and you're able to hold that, you might want to think about holding a little bit of that throughout the next couple of miles here. If you do that little tester and you're saying, I don't feel super great, nutrition, pacing, hydration, what's going on, check in, go down your list, electrolytes, and see what's what. If you have overdone it and you figure out what's going on, you need to identify that and fix it ASAP. It's not going to turn around right away, but it will be able to turn around if you let it. So if you actively start to correct what you have incorrectly done on race day. This next big section over here, again, slowly start to ratchet the pace up throughout this section here on a good day. If you can't, just maintain. There's nothing wrong with walk running this section at all. Don't be afraid of doing that. And then our last section over here is largely pacing, hydration, nutrition based over here. Because we have a lack of elevation leading up to this point in time, you're largely going to be held back by your previous self during this section here. Of course, we want to be increasing the pace, but if not, then not. One of the worst things you could do is wait till mile 10 to start fueling or actively starting to fix the cramps or the stomach issues and things out there. You should be trying to fix that early on in mile 1, 2, and 3, and then reacting further after that. But if you do get to the end over here and you are starting to experience some of those issues, make sure you are reaching for what is going to help you on race day. Again, this course is going to be largely self-paced, and I mean that because based off of what happens previously on the bike. That lack of elevation is really, really going to only it can help us or it can hurt us, depending on what you've done preceding this. And that is Ironman 70.3 Florida in a nutshell. If you have any questions, again, please reach out to me. Like, subscribe, share. If you need any coaching advice or coaching consultations or just coaching, please reach out. We have a couple of slots open for our 2024 team. And with that, I wish everybody good luck at this 2023 edition of Ironman 70.3 Florida. Good luck, everyone.